Alright, welcome back to my legendary build series where I do 16 different builds on all 16 different legendary campaign missions across the Witch Queen and Lightfall, where I use 16 different exotic weapons, 16 different exotic armors. I'm using all 3 classes, all 5 subclasses, and 32 different legendary weapons, so nothing is being used more than once. All weapons are different with every run, and this is part 12 out of 16 of the series, and I'm finally getting around to Void with this video and part 11, which I put up yesterday with Voidwalker. So I'm on, this might be my favorite hunter class. It's probably the Nightstalker is probably what I've put the most amount of time into on hunter, and I do play all 3 classes fairly evenly, but I usually lean towards Titan, and I used to be mostly like a Titan and then a Warlock, and then hunter was kind of last, but since last season I've really been playing hunter a lot more than Warlock. So, and that's primarily because of the exotic armor piece that I'm wearing right here, Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, which is an exotic that came out with, I think, Season of Plunder, or Season of the Haunted, but it was basically disabled for like an entire season, and it's been reworked to be a very different exotic than what it was at first. It's been reworked multiple times until finally last season, Season of the Seraph, is when we got the kind of third time's the charm final version of Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, which gives you volatile rounds infinitely if you build into it correctly. So what happens, the way the exotic works is there are a couple aspects to it, but the main use that you're going to get out of it is volatile rounds. Anytime you emerge from invisibility, you just automatically get volatile rounds on your void weapons. It's that easy. So you may be thinking, yeah, but you can't be invisible all the time, especially if you're not running Omnioculus or Graviton. Well, that's not the case if you use Stylish Executioner. I mean, you could go without Stylish Executioner and run Quick Fall along with Vanishing Step, so you can dive bomb and dodge to get your invis fairly frequently. But if you really want to have the maximum amount of uptime, just no thinking at all, just constant in and out of invis, just run Stylish Executioner along with Vanishing Step. That's going to give you 4 fragment slots to build into, and Stylish Executioner is going to feed the loop for your invis, because with Stylish Executioner you go invisible automatically anytime you kill void debuff targets. So whether the target is weakened, suppressed, or volatile, they die, you go invisible. That's how Stylish Executioner works. There's another benefit to using the Stylish Executioner, which I wasn't even really aware of due to my lack of reading or just lack of caring, because the invisibility part of it is just so good. But if you melee a target after you get a Stylish Execution, which is if you kill a void debuff target, then your next melee hit is going to weaken a target. So I didn't really know that, but that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about using Echo of Leeching with this build, which is the fragment that gives you health on melee kills, and it gives you +10 to resilience, which, to be honest, I was mainly using it for the +10 resilience because I'm just super picky and particular about my stats, especially on hunter, because it's kind of tough to spec into max mobility and resilience. And and for some reason on Hunter, I'm extremely stubborn about having at least tier 10 mobility, tier 10 resilience. So I was using Echo of Leeching pretty much the whole time before I even realized that using your melee after stylish executions would weaken targets. I did not realize that, and I don't think it really came into play all that much, but there is that. So yeah, Gyrfalcon's Hauberk is really good. Automatic volatile rounds, constant flashing in and out of invis because of stylish executioner, which means you're just you're infinitely looping invisibility and volatile rounds without hardly any effort at all, as long as you're using void weapons. And so here's the thing: you got to start the loop. Once you start the loop, it's easy. You don't have to worry about it. And it's easy to start the loop, but you do have to be mindful of it. So when you're getting ready to engage a bunch of enemies for the first time in a few, you should start off with either a grenade or a smoke bomb, or just immediately dodge to go invisible, and then start fighting, and then that's gonna feed the loop. So I apologize if I miss some certain aspects about the Gyrfalcon's build. I didn't even write out any notes or bullet points for the build, because I've actually done quite a few videos on this build over the last 2 seasons, maybe a bit more. I did my solo flawless Spire of the Watcher with this build. Not exactly 100% to the T, but I did it with Gyrfalcons. I did it with the same SMG that I'm using here. So it's an extremely viable Nightstalker aggressive type of build, where you also have the safety and security of being invisible basically whenever you want. And so, speaking about the weapon that I'm using here, Unforgiven, which is the Void SMG from the Duality Dungeon. If you've been lucky enough to get the roll that I have, then you should be good. If not, you might have to farm Duality quite a bit. But what you want is Repulsor Brace. Now, there are other weapons that you can get with Repulsor Brace, including, right now, easily, you've probably got 100 of them already, the Title, which is the Void SMG that drops with Guardian Games. That actually rolls now with Repulsor Brace. Last year, it didn't. Actually, last year, at this time, there was no Repulsor Brace on any weapons. It's been a new perk since, I don't know, season 17 or 18. So it's fairly new, and it's very popular. Unforgiven was one of the first weapons that rolled with Repulsor Brace, and so you can use whatever you want with Repulsor Brace, but I would recommend it for the simple fact that Repulsor Brace is going to work perfectly with Stylish Executioner and Volatile Rounds. It's basically, it triggers on the exact same mechanic as Stylish Executioner. So with Repulsor Brace, anytime you kill a Void debuff target, which is the same requirements for Stylish Executioner, but with Repulsor Brace, you're going to get an Overshield. So 2 things happen every time you kill Void debuff targets. You're going to get an Overshield, you're going to go invisible. So you could already see how this plays into the survivability of the build while you're being aggressive. So it works perfectly like that. Now you don't 100% need Repulsor Brace, because you can argue that, well, just going invisible, that kind of negates the need for damage resistance and high resilience, and why do you need an Overshield if you're invisible? That's true. If you're really crutch on and play into your visibility and wait out your full invis cycle so that you can get some health regen, then yeah, you can totally play like a more passive invis build on Nightstalker like that. But that's not the way Gyrfalcon's is designed, I don't think. It is tailored to an aggressive style of play. And in fact, that might be why I enjoy this version of Nightstalker so much, because I was never a huge fan of like the passive just be invisible all the time. I get that it's good for doing certain solo flawless things, but oftentimes it just makes everything take so much longer, because you're just like walking on eggshells around the enemy the whole time, but you need to be killing them, otherwise you're never going to get anything done. So I understand the survivability of being invis, but I'd rather just more use invis when I really need it, and otherwise I'm just going to take advantage of the fact that Gyrfalcon's is giving me volatile rounds for playing into invis. So the idea with how you go invis on this build is you just want to be flashing in and out of invisibility as much as possible. Don't even think about remaining invisible. Just keep shooting. You're going to flash in and out, and you're just going to constantly refresh your volatile rounds. So it's almost like the invisibility part is just kind of like, it just happens as you're playing aggressive. It's not because you need to be invisible. But you can, like I said, definitely use invisibility to your advantage when you need it. Like, I'm going to need it right here fighting this Tormentor. Because if he closes the distance, or if I get rushed by dogs, see, I can use my invis here and get a couple seconds of respite to throw the enemies off track, and if I need to recover some health, I can wait out that invis. So that just kind of goes without saying with any invis build on Nightstalker, really. So I've got tunnel vision, I think, on this, and repulsor brace, and yeah, there's quite a few weapons with repulsor brace now. So definitely look into that if you're going to use Gyrfalcons, or if you're going to use Stylish Executioner on any build. Repulsor Brace is just free. It's a weapon perk on a weapon. You don't have to build into it at all. It's just a free weapon perk that amplifies your build big time. Yeah, so look into that. Other weapons I'm using here are my Deliverance from Vow of the Disciple, which I crafted with enhanced compulsive reloader and enhanced chill clip. I don't get a whole lot of use out of it because Riptide is usually just better. Riptide is a rapid fire frame, and it does more DPS. It's just feels snappier. It's just a really good chill clip fusion rifle. But if you don't have a Riptide, and if you don't play PvP, I don't either. I somehow got one either through Hawthorne clan engrams from my clan mates playing PvP, or maybe it was from when I played a few rounds of PvP a few seasons ago. I don't know, but it's not craftable either way, so you'd have to farm for it, and not everybody plays PvP. So you can, not that it's very easy to get Deliverance either if you're not familiar with Vow of the Disciple, and if you don't want to farm weekly red borders out of it, then yeah, it could be kind of tricky to get one crafted. But it's a good fusion rifle nonetheless, and it does the job. So the idea behind compulsive reloader is obviously I want to be reloading compulsively so that I can get to the top shots in my mag, so that I can always have those chill clip shots, because you only get the slow effects from chill clip on your first 2 shots of the mag, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, so if you want to freeze a target, you shoot them with twice, they're frozen. So I partly used the fusion rifle with chill clip for crowd control, because when you're fighting tormentors, or any threatening target really, it helps to freeze them. It also helps to blind them if you have a blinding GL. But I've already used blinding GLs on a couple of my other runs, so I didn't want to go that route. And I honestly kind of wanted to use my Deliverance. I hardly ever get to use it after sinking all kinds of resources into it and getting all the red borders and everything. I may as well use it somewhere. So another thing that works against Tormentors and threatening targets as a way of crowd control or just priority target control is suppressor grenades. They will pretty much disable Tormentors, although the Tormentor in this mission I think is a boss tier Tormentor, so you can't freeze it for long, you can't suppress it for long, you can't really blind it. But you do get like a brief second after they're frozen where you can kind of get away. But I'm just saying it in general, like there are some crowd control options to control Tormentors, and that'll come especially in handy in other areas of the game, in some of the new revamped Nightfalls, in the end mission, Desperate Measures against Callus. There's a couple Tormentors there. They're not boss tier, so you can constantly blind them. And yeah, you can also suppress them. So why am I using suppressor grenades and not vortex grenades on Nightstalker? I am using suppressor grenades here. I generally prefer suppressor grenades on this build. I do sometimes swap out for vortex grenades depending on what I'm doing, like if it's a dungeon or something, maybe I'll put on a vortex grenade. But I'll tell you why I don't need why I prefer suppressor grenades instead of vortex, because vortex grenades are doing a lot of damage to a lot of targets, like for ad clear. And do I really need that when I've got constant permanent volatile rounds? I don't think so. But what I do need is some way to slow down and crowd control targets, and suppressor grenades just do that. Not only that, but I can use Echo of Domineering so that I get free weapon reloads every time I suppress enemies. Suppressed enemies are void debuff targets, so I don't need to use... If I was using vortex grenades, I would have to pair that with Echo of Undermining for the weaken effect in order to proc RepULsoR Brace and Stylish Executioner, which is expensive on fragments, expensive on stats, because it's a negative 20 discipline stat for Echo of Undermining. So if I use a suppressor grenade with Echo of Domineering, yes, I'm also using a fragment to supplement the grenade, but I don't need to. The only reason I'm doing that is because it gives me an extra plus 10 discipline and free reloads. So I have every tool in the void debuff kit on this build to debuff targets, and always have Stylish Execution and RepULsoR Brace procced and volatile rounds therefore. Right, so I've got my smoke bomb for weaken, I've got my tether for weaken, and I've got suppressor grenades to suppress, and I've just got constant volatile rounds. Also, that leads me to the last weapon that I'm using here, which is Leviathan's Breath, which is the exotic heavy bow that now, I think just with this season, came out with like the explosion. So you fire your bolt, it hits your target, and then it also, you'll do like precision damage with it, but then after it unleashes an explosion, and now they've classified that explosion as a volatile explosion. So that means that even if I don't have volatile rounds procced, Leviathan's Breath is always going to be doing volatile damage, which is good. And they increase the damage that it does, and it's actually an insane heavy weapon to use, even on like on Achilles, Inspire the Watcher. Extremely good there, top tier. Any precision based damage where you have enough time to unload all your shots. It is a bit slow to reload, but if you have the catalyst, you basically get Archer's tempo for it, and then you can pair that with weapon reloaders for Void, and you know, you'll be knocking arrows quicker, which means you'll be getting off more shots. So it's definitely top tier. If you have it, get the catalyst, finish it, use it. It's really good, especially with Gyrfalcons, because you know it's Void. I always got volatile rounds no matter what. I've always got my triple weapon surge mod. When I have armor charge, I've got 22% more damage. When my targets are debuffed by weaken, whether it's from my tether at 30% weaken or just my smoke bomb at 15, that all adds up to a lot of damage. So you saw in the opening clip I was doing like 47k per crit with Leviathans with armor surge active, volatile rounds active, and 30% weaken from my tether. And then on the next clip after that, you could see I didn't have armor charge, and the boss wasn't weakened by anything, and I was doing almost half the damage, like at 22,000, which is still a lot. It's still fair, but like if you really want to nuke, if you really want to nuke anything, then use weaken. Use your tether, use your smoke bomb to your advantage, use weapon surge mods to your advantage, and yeah, it'll go crazy. So, and there's another topic that I wanted to talk about, but I might save it for another video. I'll talk about it a little bit here until this mission ends, and then I'll have to expand on it at another point. But I realized that there's kind of a theme with all these builds that I've put together in this series as far as how to balance build crafting with weapon crafting, because Destiny, unlike most other games, specializes. It's extremely good at balancing build crafting, like, you know, role-playing style build crafting, along with first-person shooter weapon crafting, right? So like a lot of first-person shooters have weapon crafting, you know, quote unquote. You know, like Call of Duty, you can go to the gunsmith and you could totally build your weapon with the stats that you want. Destiny kind of has that along with the build crafting, and to have a good build and be able to do solo flawless gameplay, you want best of both worlds, and that's why I basically go about 50-50 on my combat mods, right? Focus your build from your subclass, you know, your super, your abilities, your aspects, your fragments, your exotic armor piece. That is the bulk foundation of your build. And then you want to complement that with, you know, your 3 weapons of choice, and you want your exotic to tie into the build as well. And then the perks, and if you actually craft the weapon, I'm not just saying you have to use crafted weapons, I'm saying like your kit loadout, like crafting your whole loadout, you know, for your weapons. Whether you're farming for certain roles, it's the roles that you pick to go with the build, whether you're crafting those weapons or not. That's what I'm calling weapon crafting in this case. So yeah, you pick your build, then you pick your weapons, and then you basically marry them together with your combat mods, right? The combat mods are kind of like the least important part of your build. Your abilities, how you build into your abilities is top priority, then your weapons, with that in mind, and then you make everything meet with combat mods, and you go about 50-50 on the energy, right? So a huge chunk is going to go towards stats. You just want to max out your stats. In this case, I'm triple 100s, mobility, resilience, and discipline. And then I've got some ability-based combat mods that I'm using, such as, well, I can't think of it. Go back to the start, you can see the entire build. And then I've got about half of my mods that benefit my weapons: reload speed, weapon damage, ammo reserves, you name it. but that's a topic for another video. Maybe I'll get into it more. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like, leave a comment. I'll talk to you in the comments. Take care. Have a good one.